I started The Artist Way, and I'm here to tell you about my experience so you don't have to do it, or so that you can decide if you want to do it, whichever statement applies. Because if you were interested enough to click on this video, you're either contemplating starting The Artist Way, or you just want to consume some more information about it so you can feel like you did it even though you're not going to. No judgment here, as long as you're entertained. I'll start with a little more of an introduction. Hi, my name is Jillian. Welcome to my channel, Jillian by Design, or welcome back if you've seen my face before. Here I am dedicated to documenting living my life by design and not by default. And right now we're in the chapter where I'm still unemployed and still unsure exactly what my next step is now that I'm committed not to returning to corporate America. And that's why I decided to start The Artist Way. Because as I transition into living a more creative and authentic life, I feel like I've had some blockages that are preventing me from reaching my full potential. This program's supposed to help you get unstuck, so I decided to try it out. And I'm making this video because it might be helpful for other people, but also to hold myself accountable, because I actually only got halfway through the Artist Way program, and then I decided to pause because I was trying to complete it at the same time that I was doing a little 3-month journey through Southeast Asia, and I just realized I couldn't give it like as much attention as I wanted to, so I decided to pause until I was back home and could dedicate my full effort. That was a long intro. Let me check my notes to see what we're supposed to discuss next. Yes. Even though I only got halfway through the program, I do feel like I've already gained a lot of insights. And so in this video, I want to talk about the 6 main takeaways that I've gotten from weeks 1 through 6, and also some of the exercises in those weeks that I found most helpful, and a little bit of intention setting as I move into completing the second half. So yeah. If you're into this kind of thing, you should definitely subscribe to my channel. I know I'm not the most consistent poster, and all I can say is I'm working on it. I'm so sorry, y'all. I really am. Before I get into my 6 takeaways, I do want to get into some disclaimers about, I guess, the more controversial aspects of the Artist Way program, because when I was looking at other videos, I realized there were a lot of people who did not enjoy this. I'm not one of those. Spoiler alert. This is a video that is recommending that you check it out. But one of the biggest critiques that I saw was people talking about how they couldn't get past the religious aspects of the book. There is a lot of mention of God and religion throughout the book, and so I could see how that might be off-putting if it doesn't align with your exact spiritual beliefs. But in the introduction, the author does specify that you should not get caught up on the semantics, and if you don't align with her version of spirituality, replace it with whatever does work for you. You just need to be able to have a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. And if you're a devout atheist who just cannot tolerate any mention of a God concept, maybe don't pick up the book that says it's a spiritual path to higher creativity. That's my thoughts on that one. Next, the program would definitely be very overwhelming if you try to truly stick to the 12-week schedule, especially if you're doing it while being fully employed, you have kids, you have other obligations. And I saw that a lot of people don't make it through for that reason. But I personally was not taking it at the pace that it's written in the book, especially because I was traveling. I didn't always have time to do it within a week. So if it took me 2 to 3 weeks to finish week 4, then so be it. And I think that it's a lot less stressful if you think about it that way. And same with the morning pages, which, if you are unfamiliar, one of the core pillars of this program is that every morning you're supposed to wake up and write 3 pages in your journal, just brain dump, whatever it is, don't think about it, just write. And that's another requirement that a lot of people get tripped up on. For me personally, I tried my best to do the morning pages because I do think they're very helpful. But if my morning pages happened in the afternoon because I woke up late and I had somewhere to be, then so be it. If I only wrote 1.5 pages one day, then that's that. I wasn't really tripping on it. I was focusing more on trying to be consistent about implementing the practice, and however it looks on a day-to-day basis is how it looks. I think overall, when it comes to everything with this book, taking an all or nothing approach is, I don't think, the intention, and so I wouldn't recommend. It's not 75 hard. It doesn't have to feel stressful. Okay, now on to my key takeaways. One thing that really resonated with me as a harsh confirmation that I needed to make some changes in my life is the mention of jealousy as an indication that you are living out of alignment. I realized that I was developing this weird sense of jealousy towards people who were actually doing the things that they said they were going to do in life in any capacity. Like anytime I would observe it, I couldn't quite put my finger on what the frustration or emotion I was feeling was, but I realized that it was jealousy because I was spending so much time not keeping the promises that I made to myself. And it made it hard for me to see other people like doing it and succeeding, because I'd be like, dang, that would be me if I just, did all the things that I said I was going to do. And I've really been struggling to figure out what it was that was keeping me stuck. And in this first half of the program, I definitely did get some answers to that. My key takeaway number 2 was encapsulated in a quote from week 4 that says, in order to have self-expression, we must first have a self to express. I've come to the realization that one of the reasons I've been so stagnant in my creativity is because I used to live life and let that inform what I decided to make. But I reached this point where I felt like I had to produce for an audience, even if the audience is just like me and my own criticism. And so I was living my life in a way that aligned with the plot that I set up in my head that I would be able to share, instead of just doing what I wanted to do and letting that manifest in my creativity authentically like I used to do in the beginning. And I really enjoyed the way the Artist Way has made me become more intentional about just existing sometimes. Because I think that a lot of people like myself who are working on healing and self-development and like watching the videos, reading the books, doing the courses, we get very caught up in the need to be constantly improving, because I realized that in order to have sustainable growth, you need to rest. You need time to just vibe. Like, you don't always have to be improving because there's not always something wrong with you, Sometimes the only thing that's wrong with you is the fact that you keep trying to find something wrong with you. Key takeaway number 3 is another direct quote. I don't remember from which week. I didn't write it in my notes, but it says that it is your job to do the work, not to judge the work. This is another thing that I've really struggled with as someone, oh my God, see, this is a problem when reporting outside. Anyway, this is another problem that I have really struggled with as someone who is their own worst critic. Because a lot of times the thing that keeps me from posting or like sharing my creative ideas with the people around me is what I perceive would be their potential like negative criticisms of the thing. And the reality is that my goal is not to be digestible by everyone in the world. That's not realistic or interesting, I really have to keep reminding myself that it is my job to do the work, not to judge the work. And whoever decides that they're picking up what I'm putting down will opt in to receiving more of it. There's no way to predict who's going to resonate with what you have to share in the world. And it's not your job, my job, our job to do so. And that was something that I've learned in the weeks since I started this program. Key takeaway number 4 is that answered prayers are scary because they put you in the driver's seat. And I realized that another one of the things that's been keeping me stuck is thinking about the possibility of everything working out. Because in a world where I get everything that I manifested, there's a large part of me that fears that I would fumble the bag. And that's very scary. I'm still working through that one. Living in a world where you never follow your dreams and you always can just fantasize about what it would have been like if you've done it, it's very comfortable. There's no growth in comfort. So we got to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. And this segues nicely into my takeaway number 5, which is that there is no cap on spiritual abundance. One of the topics that week 5 discussed was overcoming the scarcity mindset that a lot of us have as it relates to receiving spiritual abundance. Like I mentioned on my last point, a lot of times I feel scared that if I get the things that I've manifested, I might fumble the bag. I realize it's a type of scarcity mindset that is leading me to feel that way. Because when you think abundantly, there's no way you're going to fumble something that's meant for you. Doing the daily affirmations and other exercises to remind myself about this spiritual abundance really helped me to dream bigger than the things that my logical brain told me were achievable milestones and successes. Also being open to the fact that it can be even better than I can possibly imagine, and not having to fixate on a specific goal to feel comfortable that I'm on the right track. Number 6 is to do the morning pages. I know a lot of people are really turned off by like the journaling 3 pages a day, every single day, especially if you're not already in the practice of journaling. I can see how that would feel a bit daunting, but I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite like new habits that I've implemented in my life. Even in the time since I paused like doing the actual program, I've still continued trying to do my morning pages, because as a person who chronically overthinks, it really is just so helpful to get all of the mess that's in my head like onto the page so that I can clear up space to use my brain for more productive things. Also, I will say that in this first half, I did kind of struggle with the artist dates, but at the same time, like I was on a trip kind of doing whatever I wanted all day, every day. So it was like a big artist date conceptually, but that is something that I will need to be more intentional about as it comes to moving into this second half. So if you're wondering why I didn't really mention the artist dates, it's because I didn't really do them. But the few that I did were really enjoyable. And now I just want to talk about a few specific exercises that I found most helpful. And if these type of things sound like something that like you would want to do, maybe look into doing the artist way. I picked these examples because they kind of illustrate that the program is helpful even if you don't consider yourself like an artist in the traditional sense, because I would not consider myself that, but it's not geared towards people who are just like photographers, painters, screenwriter, etc. The message can apply a lot more broadly than that. First was this imaginary lives exercise, which came up multiple times throughout the different weeks. And so basically what you had to do was just write down like a bunch of different like alternative lives you would live if you weren't living the one that like you're living right now. And one example for me is that in another life, I would love to be a chef. I really like cooking. And when I was younger, I used to want to go to culinary school, but I just kind of like dropped that dream, moved on to some other ones. But in another life, I'd be a chef. And so you just list out all the things like that. I really liked that the activity was revisited multiple times throughout the program because I would have like different answers each time, but as I looked at them, there were some patterns that revealed themselves about the things that I truly am passionate about. And it's got my gears turning on ways that I could make these imaginary lives into my reality, you know? And so I really like that, especially as someone who is in oh my God, it's a bug. Especially as someone who was in a career transition. Oh my God, that bug is still here. See, I don't know, this outside recording, I don't know if this is for me. Let's get through this. Number 2 is there were various exercises that required you to track your daily habits, like tracking what you spend your time on throughout the day or tracking how much money you spend during a week and on what. And I really like this exercise because it was very illuminating to see how the reality of how I'm spending my time, energy, and money differs from what I would say I value the most. While I won't necessarily say that was fun to do, it was beneficial. Lastly, we have another one that was absolutely not fun to do, but very, very important. And that is week 4, the media deprivation week. In the book, it's written as a reading deprivation week, but if social media and streaming services and such existed when this book was written, I know that they would be included as well. So that's how I decided to interpret it. And so how the media deprivation week works is that you're supposed to take a week, go cold turkey, no reading, no scrolling, no watching TV, like no media consumption, so that you can take that time to sit with your own thoughts, learn to be uncomfortable with quiet, with silence, and just kind of recalibrate. And I'm going to be honest, I tried it during week 4. I tried it again a couple weeks later. I am currently, as I'm recording this video, practicing another media deprivation week so I could be on a fresh start moving into like the second half. Failing miserably. Oh my gosh, it really is these damn phones. Like my addiction to doom scrolling, concerning. It was helpful to do, to realize how deep the addiction goes. And this has inspired me to implement more daily habits that get me off of these screens. But yeah, woo, that one's hard. And now I would like to move on to talking about my intentions for the second half. So when I started the Artist Way, I was preparing for this 3-month trip to Southeast Asia that I had planned because, you know, I'm unemployed. I'm taking an adult gap year. I just turned 29, so I'm getting up there in age. And, you know, I was just like, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to figure it out afterwards. And so my plan really only went as far as I'm going to try out the Artist Way and I'm going to go on this trip, and I didn't really know what was next. Now, trip is over. Content coming about that as well. Like I did say I was going to vlog the whole thing. Listen, I can explain, just not in this video. Like I have ADHD. I'm not good at multitasking. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. But anyway, before that trip and when I started the Artist Way, that was all that I had planned. Now, I can confidently say, after going on said trip and doing the first half of the Artist Way, I have identified the next key milestones that I would like to hit over the next year by the time that I turn 30. And now as I move into the second half of the artist's way, I'm hoping to get a little more clarity or remove the blockages that are preventing me from finding clarity on how I'm going to make this dream life I'm building sustainable. And to get a little more specific about what those milestones are, in the past 3 months, from the end of December to the end of March, I traveled to 7 countries and had the time of my life. And I realized that I just want to keep traveling. In fact, I would like to move out of the United States. And so, as I have mentioned in previous videos, or maybe I haven't, I don't know, but I have a current goal of visiting 30 countries by my 30th birthday. After this trip, I'm at 25, which means that I've got a year to hit 5 more countries. So my short-term next goal is figuring out how to fit it in the budget to check off those next 5 countries, hopefully in Central and South America, because that's an area of the world that I haven't ventured much into. And my next longer term milestone is that by April 2027, I will be living abroad, or at least in the process of the steps that will get me to living abroad. Because yeah, I don't know, I just don't want to be here. I've made up my mind about that. The dilemma is I just don't know how to make it happen yet. But every day, a step closer, I hope, maybe. And if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe. And let me know if you like this video, because I was thinking of ways to make it more creative than just like sitting here and yapping, but like I didn't have any. And I don't know, like a lot of times videos are just very overstimulating to me. So sometimes I just want to vibe. So yeah, let me know what you think. Sorry I've been MIA. I'm gonna try to do better. Bye.